Hello and welcome to yet another amazing session with your English teacher Shweta Roy. And today we are going to talk about and discuss a very informative and intriguing session, an intriguing lesson, and very informative lesson, Discovering Tut the Saga Continues by A.R. Williams. Now, before proceeding with this super interesting session, as you can see from the picture, you can definitely make a guess that we are going to talk about something which is related to Egypt and mummies. All of you know what mummies are? So, if yes, then please let me know in the comment section what are your thoughts on mummies. Are you curious to know more about mummies? Have you seen? There have been so many movies, there have been so many, pictures. You must have seen a lot, you must already know a lot about mummies, right? So, let us now share little bit of information about someone called a very important personality, I believe, someone called Tut. Now, who is this Tut? Now, this is the short form of his name. Can you guess the full name? Do guess the full name in the comment section and let me know. And don't go anywhere, because in this session I'm going to have a quiz. Okay, and very interesting quiz for all of you at the end, by the end of the session. So do not leave the session and watch the video till the end. So yes, if you have guessed the name in the comment section, it is about Tutankhamun's mummy, which is the royal mummy. Now, a speciality and an exclusivity about this mummy is that this is the only royal mummy to have been found entirely undisturbed. This is a fact and a very intriguing one. The burial chamber was found in the year 1922, but it was not opened until a year later. As you can see from the picture, this is an image of Tutankhamun. Now, what do you know about Tutankhamun? Let us see. Now, before we proceed with that, as I asked you about mummies, now what exactly is mummification? Now, you should know all these details about mummification, because this is going to help you in the understanding of the chapter. The methods of embalming or treating the dead body that ancient Egyptians used to call, the ancient Egyptians did, that is called mummification. All of you are aware about Egypt, and of course when I say the name of Egypt, all of you of course can relate that, and immediately the image which crops up in your mind is that of the pyramids, and of course the next image that comes up in your mind is mummies, right? Now, using special processes, the Egyptian removed all the moisture from the body, leaving only a dried form that would not easily decay. That is how they used to preserve. Okay, it was important in their religion. This is not out of their fancy, but this was a part of their religion, to preserve the dead body. And how to preserve that? In as lifelike a manner as possible. So they had to, it is there in the religion that they had to preserve the dead body, and that too very in a lifelike manner as possible, as much as possible. So now this was very successful. So successful were they that today we can view the mummified body of an Egyptian and have a good idea of, now why was this mummification done? Because of this reason. So today also, when we can we can see the mummified body of an Egyptian, we can have a good idea of what he or she looked like when it was 3000 years earlier, right? So this is something which is really interesting. At least for me, it is really interesting. And when I read this chapter, I was really intrigued to know a lot of facts about Tutankhamun, right? So now, A.R. Williams, she's an archaeologist also, apart from being a writer, and she has specialized in ancient history and cultural heritage. During her 30-year career with National Geographic magazine, okay, so she was an archaeologist, so she has worked with National Geographic magazine. Now, she has reported a lot of research about ancient Egypt. Now, this is the chapter which we are going to study. This is a part of that, including the 2005 CT scan of the mummy King Tutankhamun. Now, This CT scan is something very unusual which happened with this royal king Tutankhamun. She is the author and editor of several geographical books, National Geographic books on archaeology, because she was herself an archaeologist. Now, this includes Treasures of Egypt, which was published in November 2022, which is 2 years back from now, right? So, of course, she is a modern writer, right? So, yes, Anne R. Williams is her full name. So, you must know a little bit, you should have this information about the author of this particular chapter. As president of the Washington, D.C. chapter of the American Research Center in Egypt, Anne hosts their monthly online lectures sharing the latest news in Egyptology. So she is associated mostly with Egypt. She has a bachelor's degree in classical and Near Eastern archaeology from this particular college, and she has a master's degree also from the University of Toronto, right? So this is about her backdrop, about her education, about her degree, about her work. Now, coming to this particular chapter and the introduction, the story discovering Tut the Saga Continues. This is the name of the lesson, right? Now, this is a description of the exploration. So that is why it is very, very informative, okay? And that was conducted by a team of researchers. Now, this gives an account of the struggles. Now, the struggles are very, very important for you to know and understand, because this comes as a question. This can come as a question for you, okay? Now, they were unraveling the mystery of the death of a teenage ruler. Now, please note that King Tut was a teenage ruler. He died very young. He died when he was a boy. He was a teenager. In his teenage, he had passed away. So this story highlights the change in the methods of archaeology. This is very important from the perspective of archaeology. Okay, from a few decades back to the present era of modern technology. Now this can come as a question also. Okay, so basically you need to know the entire chapter. This gives you an idea about the kind of exploration which was conducted in the year 1922 by Carter, when there was no modern method to extract the remains. Please note. So this gives us an idea about the exploration conducted in the year 1922 by whom? By Carter. Please note, right? It also helps you to understand the revolution in the field of archaeology, because this was dealing with archaeology which is due to the modern equipment and sophisticated method. At that point of time, there was no modern method. Okay, this helps you to understand the collaborative effort that all the team members had put, who all were involved in this particular project. Now, the tomb of King Tut, that is Tutankhamun, is extracted. And we will also understand the concept of life after death, which is another very, very important concept according to Egyptians. A concept in ancient times that was thought that you could carry all your belongings. Now, this is also important, and this is a part of this particular chapter also, right? And that was a fact that you could carry all your belongings, and that was the reason why the Egyptians, when they buried their dead bodies, they used to, especially the royal the dead bodies of anybody who belonged to the royal family, they used to carry their belongings, because they thought that they would carry them even in their life after death, right? So similar thing happened with King Tutankhamun. The tomb was thus filled with belongings of King Tut, like razors, necklaces, wine, which were for the king to use after death. So this was a belief. This is what they believed, that these belongings they would use after death. So they buried the dead body along with all these belongings. The main focus is laid in the process of forensic reconstruction, very, very important, of the remains. Why? One is to find the cause of death and the age when the king died. These are the two things which would be analyzed in the process when this experiment would be conducted. The modern method of CT scan is used for this particular king, and his body was the first person to be put under CT scan. So this is something which is exclusive about King Tutankhamun's body. The scanner picked up images of king's body, and the anatomy was conducted much to the relief of the team members. So he was the only one he was the first one to be put under CT scan. King Tutankhamun's body was the first one to be put under CT scan. This is something which you need to know. Now, as the mummy of King Tut was gilded for performing a CT scan, what happened was suddenly there were angry winds and dark clouds. Okay, his scan was being done to unearth the mysteries that had surrounded his death, because he died very young as a teenager. So they thought that there is something mysterious about his death. So in order to study that, this particular scan was conducted. Tourists had lined to pay their respects to the mummy of the famous Egyptian king Tutankhamun, and also made speculations about his untimely death. Now, the mummy was in very bad state, according to Zahi, who was the Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities. Okay, so this person, you should know about him. Who was the Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities? It was Zahi Ahwas. And according to him, the mummy, when they found that, it was in a very bad state. King Tut's tomb was first discovered. When was it discovered? That is something for you to know. 1922. By whom? By Howard Carter, who was a British archaeologist. Very important. Please note all these. Tut was found buried with numerous funerary treasures. Now, as I told you, there was this concept of burying the dead body along with the items of use, so that they could use it in their afterlife. So yes, these were the funerary treasures, and the coffin was made of pure gold, right? So the treasures, now which treasures were found? This can also come as a question. So please note: precious collars, inlaid necklaces, bracelets, rings, amulets, ceremonial apron, sandals, sheaths for his fingers and toes. All these were the treasures found along with Tutankhamun's body. These treasures are till date the richest royal collections ever found. Some everyday items. Now these were the everyday items. These were the precious items. These were the everyday items. See, like board games, bronze razor, linen undergarments, cases of food and wine. These were the everyday items. So as they believed that they would carry them even after their death, and they would use them in their afterlife, so that is why they used to bury. So since he was the king, so he was buried with all the treasures along with the everyday items for use. This revealed that the ancient Egyptians believed in the idea of resurrection and hoped that they take their riches with death. What is resurrection? Coming to life after death. Can you tell me who is the famous god, or a god-like figure who resurrected? We all know about him. Yes, it is Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ it is believed that he resurrected after he was crucified, right? So even the ancient Egyptians believed that about this idea of resurrection, and that is another reason why they used to bury all these treasures and the everyday items. Now let us see. Now this is an important point. The problems faced by Carter during his investigation. This can come as a question. Okay, so this particular slide is very important for you all. Now Carter investigated the 3 nested coffins. In the first, a shroud adorned with garlands of willow and olive leaves, wild celery, lotus petals and cornflowers were found. What did this give? It gave a vague evidence that the death might have taken place in the month of March or April. So this was the analysis. Okay, this was the evidence. Now you could be asked that what was the evidence and what did it convey? What conclusion did the archaeologists arrived at, or the investigators arrived at? So this is something which is important. Now the difficulty that he faced, this is very important. The problems. Okay, extracting the mummy of the king out of the coffin. The ritual resins had hardened, resulting in the cementing of Tut to the bottom of the soil. So what had happened? The body was cemented to the bottom of the solid gold coffin. Okay, So though Carter unsuccessfully tried to use sun to loosen the resins. Now it was very difficult to detach the body. Okay, so there was no other way left to separate the mummy from the adornments, okay, than to chisel it away. So what they had to do is, its head had to be removed and the major joints had to be detached. So this is the problem. And how did he try to overcome the problem? What did he do? Okay, this is very important. The only ground for Carter to defend himself for chiseling Tut was that the thieves could have ripped the body apart to rob the gold if it had not been chiseled, right? So he had to remove the adornments from the body, and to do that he had to chisel it away because there was no other alternative. The body was not separating from the adornments, and if he had not chiseled it, then what would happen? It would have been robbed. Okay. As the archaeology changed with the advent of time, it focused more on the details of life and mysteries of death on treasures. Some 40 years after Carter's discovery, now this was Carter's discovery. After that, after 40 years, in 1968, when did he discover? 40 years after his discovery, in 1968, a startling fact was revealed. In the discovery of an anatomy professor who had x-rayed the mummy, he claimed that the breastbone and the front ribs of the mummy were missing. Very important. So after Carter's discovery, the next discovery revealed that some few things were missing, like the breastbone and the front ribs of the mummy. This is important. Now let us understand about Tut's family history. Okay. Now Tut's father or grandfather, Amenhotep III. These names are actually Egyptian, so it's a little difficult to pronounce. Okay, he ruled for almost 4 decades during the 18th dynasty golden age. He was succeeded by his son Amenhotep IV, who pioneered one of the odd periods in the history of ancient Egypt. Now these two are important figures. Okay, now this person, his son, that is Amenhotep IV, he made some drastic changes, and those changes were unpleasant. What changes did he make? These are important again. He promoted the worship of Aten. Aten is the sun disk, and changed his name to Akhenaten after his name. Okay, he moved the religious capital. So first is he promoted the worship of Aten. Second is he changed his name also. Third is he moved the religious capital to the new city of, this is the new city, okay, which was named as Akhenaten. Then he destroyed the images and temples of Amun. Amun was a major god at that point of time. These are all important. What changes did he make? This can also come as a question. After his demise, a ruler this is the name of the ruler, and he reigned for a very brief time, and after him finally his actual name was Tutankhaten. Later he changed it to Tutankhamun. Okay, he took the throne and he restored the old order again, which was done by his predecessors, right? And he reigned for about 9 years. The death of King Tut. Now we will understand. So this is Tut's family history. Now we will understand about the king himself. He was widely known today as the teenage Egyptian pharaoh. Okay, now he died very young, as I told you, and he was buried laden with gold because he belonged to the royal family, and he was the king, right? He was the last heir of the family of rulers who had ruled Egypt for centuries. He was the last heir. His unexpected demise was a big event, and the reason for his death remained unclear because he died very young. So of course it was unexpected, but the reasons are still unclear. Two of the biggest questions are still unanswered. How did he die, and how old was he at the time of his death? Now let us find about the CT scan. In the year 2005, King Tut's mummy became one of the first mummies. This is again, I told you that this was the first mummy to undergo the CT scan, right? The CT scan was held by whom? This is important for you, Zahi Hawass, and it was done by a portable CT machine. The scan came up with new clues about his life and death. It provided precise data for an accurate forensic reconstruction of King Tut. So, due to the sand in the cooler fan of the city, now this is another difficulty during the CT scan. They had to use two plastic fans to complete the scanning process. Why? Because there was sand in the cooler fan of the CT machine. Now Tut's body was examined over a computer screen with the help of a CT scan. What did it show? A grey head, neck vertebrae, a hand, several images of the rib cage, and a transection of the skull. After collecting the data for the scan, the pharaoh was sent back to the place, that is of course his coffin, and finally it was understood that there was nothing wrong with the mummy. After their observation, when they left, now the wind started to blow very, if you remember, when they were actually doing the CT scan, there was a problem in the atmosphere, right? And after their observations, the wind also stopped and the surrounding came to a deadly silence. Okay, in the sky just above the entrance to Tut's tomb stood Orion. What is Orion? Please note, the constellation, also called by the Egyptians as the soul of Osiris. Osiris is the god of afterlife. Okay, so just above the entrance of Tut's tomb, now see, all these are very symbolic, stood Orion. Orion is the constellation, and that is called as the soul of Osiris. Osiris is the god of afterlife, and it was as if that constellation was watching and keeping a watch, securing, safeguarding the boy king, right? So that was about the study of Tutankhamun, the CT scan, the problems. So these are the few important factors that you need to remember. His family history, the CT scan, how did it happen, and what were the major study which was revealed, the observations, and yes, and the problems, of course, right? So now we will see few of the questions which are important for us. First is, why did some people think of King Tut's untimely death as the pharaoh's curse? Now, if you remember, wind started to blow very violently at when the CT scan was going on, right? When it was happening, so that was also associated with the curse, with the pharaoh's curse, right? So after King's death, an unknown king, after King Akhenaten's death, an unknown king reigned for a very short while, as we have already seen, right? And then a very young Tutankhaten then ascended the throne. As the living image of Amun, he changed his name to Tutankhamun or Tutankhamen, right? And what did he do? He reinstated Amun worship, which was abolished by his predecessor, remember? So now he reinstated that after the pharaoh had destroyed his statues and shut down his temples. Okay, now thus King Tut disturbed the pharaoh. Okay, so Tut, it was said, it was believed that Tut died prematurely in his late teens. Why? Because of the curse that this man who was already dead, this king, okay, Akhenaten, had placed on him. So why did he place a curse? Because of course he changed everything that the king had done. Okay, he had stopped Amun worship, he again reinstated Amun worship, right? So all of that, because of this, people think that it is the pharaoh's curse that led to the untimely demise of King Tutankhamun, right? Next, list the deeds that led Ray Johnson to describe Akhenaten as wacky. Okay, so Akhenaten or Amenhotep IV was Amenhotep third successor, if you remember. He was these successors' names you have to actually remember. It's difficult, but yes, we need to remember. He was one of the famous rulers of ancient Egypt. After sitting on the throne, he did some strange activities. We've already seen what those strange activities were. That was a different god following a different god, changing his name, and Amun, who was a very powerful age-old god in Egyptian mythologies, and pharaohs were the followers of Amun. But what did he do? He started to worship Aten and changed his name to Akhenaten, which means the servant of Aten. Okay, so all these changes he had made. He spread the worship of Aten and attacked Amun. So different god, basically, nothing else. He closed and destroyed the temples of Amun and tried to destroy the image also. Such activities were controversial and questionable compared to the family's early rulers. So Ray Johnson, a scholar and researcher at University of Chicago, described the activities which was undertaken by the pharaoh as wacky. So what were the activities and why were these activities described as wacky? This is an important question. Okay, so please remember all these activities. What all did he do? What all changes did he make? Now, why King Tutankhamun's body has been subjected to repeated scrutiny? So, ancient Egypt, in Egypt, actually, Egypt is known for its mythology, rich mythology, right? So, ancient Egypt, its mythology, its kings, pharaohs have always been the topics of interest among historians and archaeologists. So, when I began the chapter, I told you that this is going to be a very informative chapter and very intriguing one. So it is very interesting, right? King Tutankhamun was a young ruler of Egypt and became one of the most interesting people in history. Historians and archaeologists had a lot of questions and curiosity about the legend. And he became the pharaoh of Egypt at a very young age and ruled for 9 years, right, before his untimely death. He was the last ruler of his family, which ruled Egypt for almost 2 centuries. Okay, and his cause of death is still unknown, but it is widely assumed that he was murdered because he died very young and untimely. It is researchers are still attempting to determine how he died and what was the age. Okay, this is why his body has been subjected to repeated scrutiny. In 1968, there was an X-ray examination, as I told you, which revealed that his front ribs were missing from his mummy. Researchers are still trying to put him on a newer medical technology and they are trying to find more facts about him. Okay, so all these are the reasons why his body has been subjected to, basically because of his very young age and untimely demise. Okay, next, who found King Tut's mummy? What problems did he face? Howard Carter, a British archaeologist, he was the first person to discover, and he found it in 1922 after years of futile searching. Now the problems, the ritual which we already discussed when I was discussing the chapter, the ritual resins had hardened and which cemented the mummy to the bottom of the solid gold, so it could not be removed for analysis. So first he tried to put it in blazing sunshine so that the resins would loosen up, but nothing happened. So finally he had to chisel it away. However, he damaged the mummy because every major joint of it was broken to get it out. So in the process, the mummy was damaged. Okay. Now what do you understand by the statement, archaeology has changed substantially? Discuss with, this is a long answer type question. Okay. What do you learn from modern archaeology? So last few decades we have seen that archaeology has undergone rapid change, a revolutionary change. It has transformed with times. Earlier it was more about gilded treasures, forgotten fortunes. But now archaeology focuses on fascinating details of people's life and mysteries behind their deaths. So that is why the king's body has undergone so many scrutinies, right? In the case of King Tut's mummy. Archaeologists are more interested to know about the facts of his life, how he died, and that is why CT scan was conducted. Also, sophisticated tools are used like CT machines. It employs forensic methods like X-ray and X-ray technology, of course. And such scientific implements, they were not available years earlier, right? Hence, they were not able to determine or discover most of the facts. So that is how it has evolved, right? So after reading this chapter, you realize that the funerary practice of the Egyptians was somewhat exaggerated. This is the next one. Okay, as they buried their kings with all kinds of ornaments, we have already done this, right? Though this is a value-based question. Though traditions and rituals must be respected, some superstitious beliefs should be discarded. Discuss. What do you think about it? So this is just a sample answer. You can come up with your own points and your own arguments, of course. Any society can progress only if it does not let go of its root. That is, it has its roots very strong. Most of us, many of us, not most of us, many of us ridicule certain traditions, mock at these funerary practice. But all these old practices have, of course, certain traditional values attached to them, right? There's a belief that not only in India but in other countries also, that death is not just a physical ending. The soul can travel further, right? This is, of course, believed in all the cultures almost. Human beings are known for their discretionary power. Traditional rituals, funeral practice should be given respect, but we should also understand that if there is no meaning attached to it, then those things can be discarded, right? If it is superstition, if just superstition, then it should be discarded. The dead body, of course, should be cremated with honor, but burying it with everyday things, if it has no relevance, we can, of course, do away with that. Traditions and rituals make us who we are. That's the concluding part. They give us our identity. But being a better society is an ongoing process, always evolving, right? Some rituals which are not relevant, which are destructive, they can be gotten rid of, right? Hence, we should learn to respect rituals and traditions which are which attach us to our roots, but also we should not blindly follow. We should follow a rational path. Okay. Next one is, knowledge about past life is useful to complete our knowledge of the world we live in. How would you elucidate this? So, of course, past is history, right? That the knowledge of history is very, very important. Modern world has expanded from the frontiers of knowledge, and in fact, the whole world has become a global village, right? Within a few seconds, we become aware of incidents which is happening thousands and thousands of miles away. Information technology has brought a revolutionary change in the field of knowledge. Still, our knowledge is incomplete if we don't know about our past happenings, and that is why we are studying this chapter, right? We are the direct descendants of our ancestors, and we must be aware of the circumstances in which they existed and how they coped with that. The structure of future is rooted in the past. So knowledge of the past is very, very important. We draw lessons from the past. We make improvements. We learn from the past. So that is the reason why the past always should be there. The knowledge should be there, because that is what acts as our guide. They inspire us and enlighten us about the world that we live in. And if you want to speak against the motion, then these are the points that you can go about with, right? So first is, the knowledge of our present circumstance and future circumstance is sufficient, and we live in a highly competitive and complex modern world. The knowledge about past lives can be at best make us retrograde instead of being progressive. Many of us believe for many of us, the world means their sphere of activities and environment they live in. People aim at specializing in restricted fields instead of being jack of all trades. So restrictive, not everything, only specific things. As such, the knowledge of the world should also be restricted according to our requirements, and we should not think much about the past. This is against the motion. This is for the motion. So it is your choice. I think it is good, it's better to be for the motion, but of course, if you can argue against it and if you can justify, you can go ahead with that. Now, as I told you that I have few questions and I want your answers in the comment section for these questions. Very, very interesting ones. Let's see how many of you can get them all right. Okay, ready children? I want all the answers in the comment section. The first question is, look at the picture and guess what is it. The hint is given, the first word is given, and it contains, see, the number of bracket, the number in the bracket specifies the number of letters in the word. So 6 and 6, okay. Look at the picture. This British archaeologist discovered Tut's tomb in 1922. We have done this, so I think you can get the answer from here. Next, I hope you have all given your answers in the comment section. I would see and I would reveal the answer in the next class. Okay, next lesson. Next is the picture shows. Who is this picture? Who's there in this picture? He's the Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities. We have done this. So please write your answers in the comment section. Okay, we will see how many of you have got the answers correct. Next one is Carter used dash to extricate King Tut's body from the coffin. Okay, so please write the answer. 6-letter word. Guess it correctly. Next one is, okay, this person, it's a god, right? An Egyptian god, okay? Usually identified as the god of the afterlife. We have done it. Starts with O. The underworld and the dead. Classically depicted as a green-skinned man with a pharaoh's beard. Here, how he looks like this, okay? Partially mummy wrapped at the legs, okay? Wearing a distinctive crown with 2 large ostrich feathers, as you can see at either side, and holding a symbolic crook and flail. So who is this Egyptian god? Let's see how many of you can guess. Look at the picture and you should know about him. Okay, next one and the last one. This also we have done. I am Dash, a prominent constellation located on the celestial equator and visible throughout the world. The Egyptians know me as the soul of Osiris, the god of afterlife. I'm sure you have guessed all the answers correctly. So I'm waiting eagerly for all your answers in the comment section. So get ready for the next lesson. The answer of all these questions would be revealed in our next lesson. Till then, take care. Goodbye. See you very soon. Have a great day.